Thank you very much and a good morning to your viewers. Well, we are expected to hear the verdict of a bail application by the two members of a racist bikers gang that allegedly terrorizes the community of Pretoria North. As you rightfully mentioned in your intro, there was an incident that happened at Willoway Shopping Complex about 3 weeks ago where 30-year-old Thato Lepinka, after indulging apparently at a local pub, went into his car and he dozed off. And upon dozing off, there were some attacks that were actually directed at him, where his car was actually damaged and he was also a bit assaulted, but he managed to escape and wait at a safe distance while the two culprits, there is Karel, David Prinsloo, and Johannes Stassen, allegedly damaged his car. So they are facing charges of assault, GBH, crimen, injuria, and also malicious damage to property. So they applied for bail last week, and during their bail application, they argued that they have employees, they have companies, and if they are incarcerated for a long period of time, then they are going to lose their income. And they also mentioned that they had dependents, which in the form of children, of whom they were saying that their livelihoods would actually also be affected if the two suspects are apprehended any longer. But then the investigating officer in the case during the bail application also testified that this gang is quite notorious for terrorizing the community, saying they are capable of actually intimidating witnesses and in fact tampering with evidence. In fact, he testified to the effect of saying that there was some tampering of evidence, as he was saying that at the Willoway shopping complex where the assault and damage to property incident happened, there was a CCTV footage there that he saw, and once he went back to try and retrieve it, he was being told that that particular CCTV footage has actually been deleted. So these are some of the arguments that have been brought by the prosecution to say that bail should not be granted to the accused, as they feel that they would tamper with evidence and intimidate witnesses. As things stand, the investigating officer actually saying that there were some incidents where evidence had been tampered with. So it's quite hard to tell, as both arguments, they managed to secure their addresses and they are not a flight risk as they are permanently employed here in South Africa. Some have businesses between the two duo. So it's hard to tell as to which way the verdict would actually go during this particular bail application. But the prosecution was actually insistent on the bail not being granted, as they were saying that some witnesses could be intimidated, as the two are members of a notorious Pretoria bikers gang known as the Chosen Soldiers Pretoria chapter, which apparently has been making rounds, targeting black people allegedly.
Yeah, I'd like to hear more about that group and what we know about them, but also, Ofentse, if we take a few steps back, there was a very popular video that made the rounds of this particular incident where Thato Lepinka was allegedly assaulted. Do we know, coming out of that incident, the extent of Thato's injuries?
Yes, we do know the extent of the injuries. I believe that the most damage was actually done to the car, as they were testifying in court to say that the insurance was actually saying that it would actually cost around 150,000 rand to actually fix the car that was actually damaged allegedly by the two suspects. And in terms of Thato, they were actually saying that he managed to sort of survive the attack because he managed to sort of get through the two attackers and wait at a safe distance while they were busy attacking his car, while he was busy pleading with them to say that they should not be damaging the car further, and he was apologizing, yet he didn't know what he was apologizing for, but when the investigating officer actually testified in court, he was saying that in terms of the extent of in terms of bruises and everything, he did not have a lot of bruising on him. But he was saying that he's not a medical expert. There could have been some internal bleeding, but accordingly, we established that no, it was not a serious injuries that Thato actually experienced during the attack, as he managed to sort of escape after they took the keys of the car, they broke the windows, and they started assaulting him. He sort of managed to break loose and stand at a safe distance where he was pleading with the two to stop what they were doing.
Do we know about previous incidents that perhaps have been perpetrated by the suspects in this matter and this bikers alleged gang that you have mentioned here, Ofentse?
Yes, because the investigating officer was quite vocal about this, saying that there are even some previous charges that were there, and in fact, when he went to go and speak to the people that were at the receiving end of these previous incidents of assault that actually happened, that were exerted by a certain Karel, David Prinsloo, who's accused number one in this particular matter. Apparently, the witnesses were quite reluctant to come forward, as they were saying that they know that this gang is quite dangerous. And once the gang can establish that they are the ones who are testifying, then it would be their lives and their families' lives would actually be in danger. Yes, there is a previous incident of an assault GBH, which apparently was settled out of court with the person that was at the receiving end. But according to the investigating officer, he was saying that, when he went to the person at the receiving end of this particular incident, the person was so scared. He was even saying that, no, this particular case is not there, but on the records, there is a previous case of assault GBH which was settled out of court, which the culprit was the one who's here at the bail application, and his name is Karel David Prinsloo, who exerted that particular incident.
Well, what we have seen, of course, over the festive season is this is now the second big race-involved case that we've seen in the country. And we certainly have seen a lot of activism around it, some political party involvement. Anything that is happening outside of the court in terms of supporters, perhaps wanting to see the outcomes of this bail application?
We did see some people actually clad in political regalia. Some were wearing ANC colors and others were actually wearing EFF colors. And in fact, during the bail application itself, the court was full of people that were actually in support of the mother of Thato Lepinka, who was also present in the court last week sometime when the judgment was actually reserved during the bail application. There are some people, but it's not quite in big numbers, as I might put it that way. At the moment, there isn't a lot of activity that's currently happening. But from what we saw earlier, there are a lot of people that actually went inside. I believe that they are trying to secure a spot and then to get the front seat to hear the verdict of this particular bail application. And maybe following the verdict, that's when they will actually come outside and, protest with their placards and everything.